Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. Today is going to be a cool day. We've got a chap by the name of Jolly who contacted me a while ago for an interview / discussion, and the topic was that we have the M-270 MLRS multiple launch rocket system in DCS. However, we consider it not very accurate. So I said, okay Jolly, well how do you know? And he says, I used to use them. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself, Jolly?
Well, my name's Jolly. I am a retired staff sergeant. I was a launcher chief, a ammo handler and driver and gunner for MLRS.
Beautiful. Okay. So we thought about doing a typical GR type interview where we pre-prepare questions and go at it hammer and tong with pre-prepared questions, but because of what the end goal today is to look at the realism, if you like, of the system in DCS, we thought we would do it ab lib discussion style. So we're going to talk, discuss, try and get me up to speed on the system, and then transfer it over to DCS and see how it works in DCS. So M270 multiple launch rocket system. My basic understanding, and it is really basic understanding, is that this is really not much more than what were the first ones? It was Stalin's pipe organ or whatever it was called, wasn't it? The Grads back in
something like that, and with the Calliope, the M4, the Calliope M4, they were just basically rocket propelled grenade launchers and stuff.
Right, so between that and the M270 and in service in the early 80s, what really was different? Are these guided or non-guided? I always assumed they were non-guided.
They are both.
Oh, how interesting. Can you explain that a bit?
Okay, so we have different types of munitions that the MLRS can use. You have an unguided rocket, which just uses a gyroscope. And the launcher to get its trajectory, and all you do is you elevate and azimuth over to target, and depending on your elevation will dictate the range that the rocket's going to get. And that one is just an area fire weapon. The smallest area one rocket can affect is about the size of a football field. We usually fire 12 rockets for saturation effect, and what they call us is the grid square killer. Our job is to pick up a grid square and drop it. Right,
so so in the unguided variant, you're going to essentially vaporize a football field area that the JTAC or the whatever on the ground has designated for you, yeah?
Yeah, correct. They give us between an 8 and 13 digit grid, and then they tell us how many targets are there. We get the fire mission down from FDC, and they tell us how many rockets they want on target, and we send them down the way.
Okay, two questions spring to mind. What is your with a rocket like that? What is your maximum range, or effective range, should I say, to be able to fulfill that mission? And secondly, can you take into account things like wind, inaccuracies like that?
Yeah, they always. We have a weather unit that travels with us, and we get all kinds of barometric data and everything. So it's really accurate. Obviously, with the dumbfire rocket, you don't get precision accuracy like you do with, say, the M-STARS rocket, but it's still good enough. As far as range, the minimum range is slated at around 6 kilometers, although if you remove safeties, you can get it down to 5, and then the LLM is going to be sitting basically flat against the launcher. It's going to be down flat at a 90. And then maximum range is going to depend on your munition type and your elevation. Usually between 36 kilometers. Maximum range is 300 kilometers.
Right. Wow, that's obscene. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting
that. When we were over in Bosnia, we were joking that we could sit over in Italy and get some sun and still hit the targets over in Bosnia.
No, it just shows how far things have come in 40 years or so. Okay, of an average rocket, if there is such thing, that you would be firing out, could you give me a rough idea of the warhead that we're looking at on that thing?
Okay, well, it's not so much a warhead as cluster munitions.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it looks kind of like, have you ever seen the little Pringles cans, like for one person?
Yeah.
Not the big tall stacks, but the little... Okay. That's kind of like what it looks like, and then it's got a streamer that comes out the top of it. And you've got about 647 of these packed into one rocket. The The rocket flies up overhead, has what we call warhead event, and then just spreads them out in a swath. As they come down, it's what we call a dual-purpose improved cluster munition. They can either be anti-personnel, or they can hit targets as big as heavy tanks like T-72s, T-80s, things like that. Because what they do is they come down straight on top of the tank, hitting the thinnest part of the armor, the top of the turret, the top of the deck, and it's a shape charge. So as soon as it makes contact, it fires that molten blast of copper, a jet of copper, right down into the top of the tank.
This reminds me of the kind of semi-intelligent CBUs that we can drop from some of our aircraft in DCS, where a canister comes out, then from the canister comes sub-munitions that I call pucks, which are a bit like those tubes that you're talking about. They come down on a parachute, and then they have an IR sensor that searches for targets, and these just what you're saying, a shaped charge can then shoot down onto a top of a tank or whatever. Is it in the same field? It's in the same field of weapon then, I guess.
Something like that, but we have a munition called a bat round. It's called a brilliant anti-tank. It looks like a Maverick with X-wings on it, and then little probes coming off the X-wings. And that's very devastating to tanks. One ATACMS can carry 9 or 13 of them. I forget. It's been a long time.
Right, Roger.
But they come out on a parachute, and then it's got an infrared, an acoustic, and a thermal sensor. So it'll look for a target, and it goes through a database that's stored in the FCS that's been transmitted to the missile. And it'll look for a target based on what you want it to find, say like a T-72. If it doesn't find the T-72, then it starts going down an order of merit list to go for the next target down that's more critical. So say you don't see any T-72s, but you do have, say, a BMP-1 and a truck. It's going to go after that BMP-1 first before it goes after the truck. Then these things are coming down on the parachute. They're all talking to each other in milliseconds so that they don't all go after the same target unless they need to. And then they jettison their chute and they come streaking in from the top.
Well, that's a truly intelligent system then. You've got data link between sub-munitions and target threat priority. So, or if you want to call it that. So that's a really clever. So all you've got to do is get it in that grid square, and it's going to do the rest of the thinking, presumably.
Yeah, but the ATACMS is a guided weapon. You tell it where to go, and it's GPS guided. So.
Okay, how interesting. I mean, it shows how little I know about this and how complex it is, because I just thought it was a rocket that was, dumbfired a load of rockets. So what happens in the field then is your fire mission comes in. Your 9-line or whatever your equivalent of that is, and it says, okay, I've got, say, insurgents with hand rifles, and then you would use when would you load the correct munition for that fire mission? Is that done at that point, or are you preloaded with your rockets before?
Preloaded.
Right, so you're going to have an idea of what you're going to be firing at beforehand, presumably.
Yeah, they're never going to waste an MLRS launcher on infantry unless it's a dire situation. They're going to go with something that's a more close-range direct fire, like either 105s or 155 howitzers. Okay,
yeah, fine, that makes sense. So, what's the benefit of this over the howitzers is that, well, what we've been talking about, really, it can have intelligent munitions. I know howitzers can have intelligent munitions, but nothing on this kind of scale.
Okay, well, let's go this route. I'll put it into a simple term for you. Do you know how big a grid square is?
No.
Grid square is 1,000 by 1,000 meters squared.
It's massive.
Okay, so square kilometer. Okay, one MLRS launcher by itself can take out and vaporize one grid square in about 35-45 seconds if you've got your shift points set right in your launcher. Whereas it would take about a battalion's worth of 155s firing for 12 minutes straight to do the same job.
Right. So it's just many, many, many times more efficient for covering that area.
It'll take out an area just faster than you can say, oh crap.
Very good. Okay. Can we talk a little bit more about the guided weapons then? You said they were GPS guided, which is taking us into the area of aerial kind of JDAMs and that kind of stuff. There's ATACMs, you called them?
ATACM stands for Army Tactical Missile System.
Could you tell us a bit more about that?
I can tell you a little bit, not a whole lot.
Sure.
It carries a different type of submunition, look kind of like a softball. It carries 944 bomblets, if I remember right. And when that one has warhead event, the missile actually starts spinning violently, and then side panels blow off, and the bomblets come out in like a donut pattern. So it's used like if you found a fob or something like that, you'd use an ATACMS on that sucker.
Right, I see. Okay. Interesting. I'm wondering, do we know the... I'm just really interested to know the firing velocity of these missiles. I don't see it anywhere.
They leave the tube at Mach 2.
A Mach 2, yeah. Okay.
That's what they leave the tube at. So it's instantaneous. And then we can cover... It takes an ATACMS, I want to say, 45 seconds, 30 seconds to reach 300 kilometers out.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so we've got a good idea of the capabilities of this system, in which, there's a lot of capability of this system. We've got an idea of why you would use this over traditional artillery. Before we go on to HIMARS, is there any experiences that you would like to tell us about? Because, there's nothing more we love than hearing actual, veterans' experiences and what it was actually like in this thing, and noises and sounds and stuff like that, and any events you'd like to talk about.
Well, the nickname for MLRS is called Steel Rain.
Oh, I remember, yeah.
Yeah, and the way they got that nickname was from the first Gulf War back in 1991. I
remember. That's exactly where I remember it from, yep.
If you've seen the videos of them firing at night, you see all these streaks of light going through the sky. That's the missiles leaving, or the rockets leaving. Well, the way we got the nickname was from the Iraqi army. They had seen one of the missiles coming at them during the day, one of the rockets, and saw it burst, have warhead event in the air above them, like 10,000 feet up. They didn't think anything of it and were laughing because they thought the missile had failed.
Missed, yeah.
They didn't realize what had happened until the bomblet started coming down on them about 10 seconds later. When they were captured, they had surrendered and were coming in, and all they were saying was "No more steel rain, no more steel rain," because they were just getting with this stuff. So that's one.
Wow, unfortunate, yeah.
There was a live fire incident that I had while I was over in Germany in stationed in Baumholder with the 94th Field Artillery. We were doing a live fire up in actually we were in Baumholder doing the live fire. We weren't in Grafenbeer. And we shot, and the rocket left the tube, but it had what we call a fin failure. So there's 4 fins that create a gyroscopic effect on the rocket in order to keep it stable. One of the fins failed, and right as the rocket left the tube, it started corkscrewing. It hit the ground, bounced up, hit the ground again, and then shot into the tree line, into the woods, and set the whole forest on fire.
Roger, yeah. I mean, I was a bit skeptical about you saying it taking out a whole square kilometre, but then you watch those things go up, and you can see the sort of power that's involved in this stuff. The launcher is like a tiny little dot, and you can see these huge plumes just firing out. The power that's in there.
Well, it's not a rocket that we shoot. You can actually cover a grid square from altitude with just 4 to 6 rockets, but we use 12 for saturation. And what we do is what's called plugging in shift points, aim points.
Yeah.
After every 2 rockets, the launcher, the LLM, will actually shift fire and fire on a different part of the grid square, and it walks that down so that you cover every portion of the grid square.
Roger. I'm just watching some footage of the kind of cluster effect, the anti-armor cluster munitions hit in Gulf War 1. Boom, 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 boom. It's just like in DCS when a CPU goes off. Everywhere is just destroyed completely. Look at that.
Yeah, the areas that we hit, if you go out there, there's like little craters everywhere that are overlapping each other. There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Imagine having to fight against that. Well, you don't, do you? You just
want to.
You're hiding for that. Boom. And that's some sort of airburst. Okay. Wow. Awesome. Very good. Sorry, I got distracted there by doing that. Where were we? Oh yeah, so we were talking about your experiences. Anything else you'd like to talk about on that before we push over to HIMARS?
No, like I said, the main reason I got a hold of you was to try to see if we could get them to get the system in the game updated a little bit so that it was more in line with the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Okay, well, let's do HIMARS quickly, and then we'll go boot up DCS, and we'll see what we've actually got in DCS. Now, I don't, well, just treat me like I am, which is an idiot, and I don't know anything about this, so do you want to take it away on HIMARS? So this is the replacement, is it? Is that fair to say? Or
it's not really a replacement. What it is an additional unit. What happens is, in order to move an M270, because of the weight, you usually need a C5 Galaxy to move them.
Mm-hmm.
What they wanted was something that could deploy anywhere in the world in 18 hours or less with frontline troops, with initial response troops, shock troops, like the Rangers or Green Berets or Marines or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Air Force has at the time only had 5 or 10 C5 Galaxies. But they had hundreds upon hundreds of C-130s.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did is they took the LLM, changed it from carrying 2 pods to 1 pod. So now you either carry 1 ATACMS and 6 rockets instead of 12 rockets and 2 ATACMS.
Mm-hmm.
And they put it on what's called an FMTV. It's a family of medium wheeled vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically a big, huge 6-wheel truck that we can actually compress by letting the air out of the tires from inside the cab. It's got a automatic tire inflation system, ATIS, and drive it right up onto on the ramp of a C-130 and into the C-130. Strap it down, and you're in the air.
Let's see. Right, yeah, and you're 10 tons lighter than a 270 as well overall.
Yep. The other thing they did is they changed the LLM the way that it traverses and elevates to target.
Mm-hmm.
On the MLRS, on the original MLRS, it would take about 45 seconds for the launcher to lay on target.
Mm-hmm.
A HIMARS could do it in 10.
Why is that? Just better technology or hydraulics?
Yeah, technology. The original MLRS used an electro-hydraulic drive. So it was an electric motor driving a hydraulic pump that turned another gear that caused the LLM to traverse and elevate. And on an MLRS, it has to elevate before it can traverse because of where the cab sits on the Bradley chassis. The MLRS M270 is actually a Bradley.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a Bradley chassis.
Okay, different on the other one.
Say again.
And how does it work on the HIMARS?
The HIMARS is all hydraulic driven, and it can elevate and traverse at the same time.
Right, okay. So it's just superior without the electric drive. Okay.
Right. Now, there is a new version of the MLRS of the M270. It's called the A2. But it still has to elevate before it can traverse. But it does lay on target a heck of a lot faster. It takes it, I think, 25 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in MLRS, in our job, we do what's called a shoot and scoot. You set up what we call a goose egg, okay, and you have 3 fire points and two hide points and a reload point.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're setting all this stuff up with your ammo section, you set up your reload points, and they pre-stage pods there for you to pick up, and then you go and roll off to your first hide point, and then you get your fire mission. You roll off to your fire point, you shoot, stow, and then scoot off to your next hide point.
Mm-hmm.
You never go back to the same place twice.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing that they use us for is what's called counter battery. So when artillery rounds or other MLRS or anything like that's coming in, we have what's a quick fire radar that tracks where it came from, and then they feed that stuff to us, and we shoot back at the target.
Mm-hmm. Has that ever been used in that fashion before?
Oh, yeah. We, if I remember right, they did that. We were doing that stuff in Iraq in 2003, 2004.
Wow. So it sees the shells or whatever that are coming in and can predict their parabola, or whatever you want to
Correct.
call it.
It gets a reverse angle within seconds, and then the fire mission goes to FDC. FDC sends it to us. We scoot out to our fire point and return fire back on the origin station.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of technology happens, a lot of thinking happening there in that computer. That's doing that. Okay. Right, all stuff. Yeah, I didn't know any of this was even possible, so that's really interesting. So as long as the guy who fired it wasn't a shoot and scoot like you, then you're going to get him.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, all very good stuff. Okay, welcome back. We're in DCS now. We've got our M-270s. We're in a 3-ship at the moment. Would you like to quickly explain what you were telling me about the battalions and how we would likely organise in subgroups of 3 and 4?
Well, a MLRS battery normally consists of a 3x4, which is three launchers and 4 platoons. So you have a total of 12 launchers per battery. Mm-hmm. And then you do what's called a battery fire mission. So you'd have 12 launchers firing at once, or 1 platoon firing at once. In this case, you've got 1 platoon.
One jump. So this platoon's going to move in, and it's going to do a typical shoot and scoot. It's going to move into its, what was it called, fire position?
Correct.
Fire position. It's going to loose its rockets on the fire mission and then move off to a secondary position that will never be the same, and they will never come back to that fire position again. That's a 1 use only. Okay, so we're going to look at 2 uses of the weapon as we've got it at the moment, which is AI controlled from the mission editor like we've got here. Oh, I should say it's going to be firing at this area here, 32 nautical miles away. You can see that rough area there. It's just a rough football field size that I put in there. If I might make it a tiny bit smaller, as it's just a little bit big at the moment. So let's make that down to 800 feet, even a tiny bit smaller, 600 feet, something like that. We're going to attack that area, and in terms of targets, it's got a whole mix of unarmoured, medium armoured, and heavy armoured tanks there, just to see what we're going to do. And then after that, we can go and actually play as the unit and show what control we've got of it. So let's save that up, and off we go. Watch for the magic. Okay, I'm not a great mission editor, so I may have got this wrong, but let's just see how it goes. Let's follow the boys. Okay. Are they going to slew their weapons, or are they going to break?
They're probably going to have to get within range.
Yeah, that worked. Oh well, let's get that. What was the problem? So the problem was... I used it outside its... So that's interesting. In DCS, so they didn't fire, and in DCS I've just noticed, I should have noticed this before, we've got a maximum range of 17 miles, where in real life we can have a lot more than that. Do you think that DCS has purely got it wrong, or maybe they've just chosen a certain type of munition? What would your feedback be on that?
Well, let me check something here.
Roger. They've got a minimum of 5 miles, exactly as you said, and a maximum of 16 or 17 miles.
Yeah, the 17-mile is our short-range rocket.
Right, so they're just assuming you're going to use the short-range rocket. We've got no way of changing ammo, so that's the one that they've modelled, if you like. Okay.
Yeah, it appears so.
Right, well that explains why I couldn't fire them at least. So I'm just going to jiggle some stuff about here. They're well within maximum now and outside of minimum. Do we know what warhead they've got in DCS, by the way? Is it just going to be a bigger high explosive, or are they going to have some?
No, it should be. It should be the DPICM.
Right. Especially
if they're using the short-range rocket. And if they're using the short-range rocket, it should have 764 bomblets. Or 644 bomblets, I forget.
Okay, are they going to work? Yes, here we go. So off they go. A traverse. I don't know, I didn't measure how many seconds that took, unfortunately, but... Okay, right, now they're going to wait. So the elevation is quite low. And the range is about... I don't want to miss the firing, so I'm just going to wait.
I'm watching them move right now. I'm not seeing what you're seeing.
Roger, you'll catch up. But what you'll see is we've got an elevation of about 10 degrees in terms of the or whatever I'm trying to say, the
LLM. It's called an LLM, a launcher loader module.
Roger.
But they're waiting for the fire mission order from FTC. Who knows?
While we've got this time, can we speak about real-life time delays? How, since the target was found, decided on, how long, I know there's only so much you can talk about, but how long before that missile gets fired? So from the order coming in, how long before you fire those missiles?
We get the fire mission. Once we get the fire mission, it's just me pushing a button. That's all it is.
Right, okay.
We're looking at about 30 seconds for all the missiles, all the rockets to be launched and in flight.
Roger.
It's they used to be able to fire them really, really fast, like a 1 second interval. They decreased it for accuracy because if you don't The LLM or the M270 has what's called an SLO, a suspension lockout. So when you're firing from the side like this, you get some, you still get some rocking of the launcher, and that rocking, if it's not settled down quick enough, you're going to have a rocket go way off target. So it gives it. They got a 2.5 second delay in between rockets now.
Right.
I know in real life, we can sit on target until we get the all clear to shoot, because they check for other things in the area, aircraft, troops in the area, all kinds of stuff. Because danger close for an MLRS launcher is 2 kilometers.
Oh. There we go. Rate of fire appears to be 1 every 2 seconds. I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
Haha, it looks just like the real event. Look at that.
I got to turn my sound on and see if they got the sounds right. Well, I'll tell you what, the rockets sound exactly like they do in real life, but they're not being covered in smoke like they are in real life.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That's one thing that's missing. I mean, when the damage catch up with you, the damage looks just like it does in real life. You'll enjoy the damage. It looks amazing. Jesus. We couldn't do that on multiplayer, I'll tell you that. That would destroy everyone's.
Someone would have a very bad day.
Yeah. You see what they call it, steel rain now.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that. No, it's the first time I fired one in DCS. Basically, everything of that entire company or whatever it is has been destroyed, which shows you exactly, pretty much how you said it. 1 square kilometer and everything's dead. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Including the T-72s.
Yeah, like I said, those things hit you from the top, and that copper jet goes down, and it takes out the tank.
Wow. I really wasn't expecting that,
Yeah, it's like taking an RPG and shooting it at a tank from the top.
Roger. There's so much of this stuff modeled in DCS, and no one ever knows, even me. I just don't know about it until someone comes along and talks to me about it. It's just crazy. Right, okay. Well, that, as you can see, or when it catches up, is a pretty obscene amount of destruction there. Almost nothing escaped that. So that's good. Now that's for fun. Let's go and control them from inside the cockpit. There is, by the way, in DCS a reloading method. It's probably not realistic at all. But if you drive a reloading truck or an ammo truck, you can reload these things. And it takes what they consider a realistic time to reload of 40 minutes or whatever it is. I'm going to rerun these.
How long?
I don't know. I haven't measured the MLRS, so don't quote me on that. I was just guessing.
Okay.
But it tries to model roughly accurately what they would do in real life.
Well, a good crew can reload an MLRS launcher in 10 minutes.
Roger. Yeah, no, I've no doubt about it. Right, what I'm going to do now is change it so that I can drive it. So I'm just going to put a single unit in this case. I'm going to make me be able to drive it.
Cap, while you're doing that, can I throw a quick question in?
Yeah, the camera's on, so go ahead.
Yeah, I remember seeing Gulf War footage of the inside of the sort of the firing control cabin when an MRLS was firing, and basically before they fired, they put down shutters to cut the light out or protect the windows, and they fired them, and the whole of the cabin was shaking and rocking and what have you. What's it like actually being in one of these things when you fire it?
Loud. We wear a helmet system that's got really big, basically earmuffs on it. That's our speakers and everything. But when you fire, you feel the whole cabin shake. That's why they've got the 2 second delay in between rockets now instead of 1 second like it used to be when they first came out. And you have to wait for each round to come off. The gunner sits in the middle, and then you got your driver on your left and your launcher chief on your right. So if you're really shooting off angle, like a 90-degree angle, sometimes that thing will rock pretty good, especially in the high Mars, and you guys will all be landed on each other.
So
okay, so this is wrong, completely wrong, Cap.
Okay, so you start firing away with what you want to say. Okay,
so if you drive an M270 with the launcher rotating around like that, you just broke your launcher. Okay. You do not travel with the travel hooks disengaged. The travel locks have to be engaged before the launcher will even move.
Right, that's one point.
That's what those hooks are right in the front. If you're looking at the side view right now,
Yep.
just under those hooks, that's the travel locks.
Roger. What would happen? You would just bust the electronic screws and stuff like that, I'm guessing, that make the thing turn. And the
Can you see those rods there that are kind of at a basically like a 65, 70 degree angle that elevate the LLM?
Yeah,
the ones
Roger.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's your jack screws. That's what's being turned by the hydraulic motor, and it's just a big screw. Yes, those. If you travel with the LLM unlocked like that, you're going to break those things. Usually it's going to break up inside the LLM, right next to the pods up or inside.
Right, okay. And the reason is this thing weighs probably tons, right? This box of missiles.
Yeah, it weighs a few tons.
And so you've got all that force. I don't know the mechanics of it, but yeah, okay.
So the thing that's sticking out the front, that's your launcher loader module itself, the crane and lift system, or hoist and lift.
At the very top.
So
yeah,
at the very top, sticking out the front of the launcher. So, that right there. So when you go to reload, that flips up at a 90, and then the pods come out of the launcher, and then they crane down. There's a hoist system inside there that's hooked up to each rocket pod.
Right, how interesting. Okay. And where would your ammo come from? Is there a special truck that carries these rockets or something?
Yeah, they bring them out on a Hemet, an M998 or 997.
Yep.
And they drop a couple of pods, either between 2 and 4 pods in different places. The two pods at a time in each reload spot.
Yeah.
So after you fire, you go to your reload point, you reload, and then scoot off to your next hide until your next fire mission. And then you go to your next fire point.
Roger. When the rocket gets put in, if you got to go and connect electric plugs and stuff like that up.
Yeah, it's on the back side. If you rotate around to the back side of the LLM, they would be right there. There's a door. That center section in between the two rocket pods, there's actually a door there, and you pop that door open and you can get everything plugged in from right there.
Roger, very good. Okay, what next? What should I do next then, do you think?
How do you shoot them in the game?
I'll tell you. So you can't actually go in the cab at all, which is odd because most things you can. If I press F1, which is in the cab, I get that view, or just this view on top of the pack. So the way I would do it is I'm just going to turn around like that, left, right, or up or down with the mouse, and you can see my azimuth at the top, my compass, and you can see a kind of elevation meter of some sort with numbers in. I don't know what those numbers are. I never figured it out. And then I would just press the mouse button at 270.
It looks like they're mils.
Oh, milliradians.
Yeah, because in artillery we do everything in mils.
Roger. I wonder if it could also be like range, though, couldn't it? It could also be like meters or feet or something like that.
Could be.
Just thinking, because they're not very. I don't know how to split. They're very dynamic. Some of these are tight together, whereas some of them are not very tight together, which would argue against it being mils. But I don't really know, obviously.
Right. Neither do I, because I haven't fired it like
No,
this.
absolutely. So I'm going to put it to 20,000 somethings, okay, at 310. I'm guessing that's true. And I'm going to press the left mouse button once and fire. And it doesn't work. Sugar, what have I done wrong, guys? Oh, there we go. It's because it wasn't signed on.
You're out of tolerance. You're out of tolerance. Come to the right.
Yeah, so I'm coming to the right. So it's going to be 355 now for 20,000 and fire. Off he goes. Let's see where that missile goes out of interest. I don't really suppose. Okay, we're at 1400 knots, so yeah, Mach 2, like you said. It's spinning. Would the real one have that massive spin on it?
Yes, that stabilizes the rocket while it's in flight.
Like right.
And if you're missing one of those fins on the back, you just had a very bad day.
Absolutely right. Yeah, the stream's saying that it's 20,000 meters, so 20 kilometers. So we shot 20 kilometers at 355, and it's going to do whatever. Just going to go and do that, and obviously those 10 seconds later those pellets come down and bing bing bing. So let's just quickly check where that would have been, purely out of interest. I don't have kilometers set up. It would have been somewhere around there. Yeah, in fact that's just about right, about 12 miles. Okay, so that's all I've got. That's all I've got the ability to elevate it in terms of meters. How many meters do I want to fire away from myself? And I can choose a true bearing or heading, whatever you want to say. That's all I've got. Where do you want to take it from there? What would you like to see introduced, and what would that bring to the sim?
I would like to see them have to at least click on a map where they want it to go, or at least be able to enter in a grid location, because this sucks.
Roger. I mean, all of that is here and available. Well, not here and available, but possible, should I say. For instance, if I go into an anti-aircraft weapon, SAM, okay, as long as it's the right kind of SAM, I can actually enter a room view and a plotting table, like a screen, like an ATC screen, where I can see a B sweep going around and I can see targets and I can shoot from there, almost like a kind of map view for a radar. So I don't see why you couldn't click on a map view, and it gives you that there, and you can see all of the maps already have their grids, Charlie November 25 and subgrids, and you could choose a square. You could say, ping, I want that square there, let me bomb that square there, please, which a JTAC could call into you, having a square number, and you fire. And that's at the moment, we've got a kind of generic cluster anti-armor type munition. Would you like to see different types of munition, or are you happy it being the same munition as what it is now?
I would like to see them have a few different types of munitions within their ability, because I don't know how. I haven't mentioned all the munitions for a specific reason. I don't know which ones are still classified or not, but at the very least, I'd like to see them have the standard range and long range rockets, and the standard range and long range ATACM.
Roger, because what we've got at the moment is, for my lack of knowledge, what I would call in DCS a dumb cluster munition. Those pellets that are coming down are dumb. They're not guided at all. I can tell by the way they drop. So if we had the ATACM, then what we could have, and we already have the coding in game for this, is the sub-munitions come out, and then they can come down on their streamers and start hunting for targets. We already have that. Well,
that's if they use the bat rounds. The regular ATACM still has the dumb sub-munition, just like the regular rocket, but it's in the shape of a golf ball, a softball.
Okay, so to summarize from the beginning, we should have the inability to unlock I can't get the missile pack. We should have the inability to unlock it while we're moving, so you have to be standing still, and then you can unlock it. Okay.
Correct.
We should be able to have a selection of missiles, not necessarily all of them, but maybe if it's only 2 or something, and to compare, for instance, if I chose a tank here, I could choose between AP and I could choose between HE and stuff like that rounds in any of the tanks. Are they perfectly accurate? No, not at all. They're just generic that work in all of the tanks, but it's close enough. So you could have a bat round, for instance, an intelligent round, and you could have the short range round. And the bat round you could fire miles, and the short range round you could fire like it is. And the ability to aim. So the current ability is pretty crap. You get a range / elevation, and you get an azimuth, which is not really any use. I mean, I see how it could be used, but what would be more realistic, and at the end of the day, Wagner and whatnot wants realism, is that you would choose a grid square, and your JTAC in the field would say, okay, can I have whatever that grid square is? I don't know how you do grid squares, but you'd have to tell me how that worked.
What they would do in real life, it takes basically a 2-star or better to have us fire. Okay. So what I would like to see is if you had, say, a mission commander that's running your op, if he was the one that had to say, hey, I've got tanks here, I need a fire mission here, and they have some guy that's your FDC out in front, your scout or whatever, what we call Cav Scouts, sending back the information saying, hey, I got units in this location at this grid, I need a fire mission. And then that gets relayed to the MLRS and comes up through the radio, just like it's supposed to. And then if you take that mission as it comes through on the radio and crypto, it's already in the fire control system, and you just go out to your point, lay down and fire. Roger. If you have someone else saying, hey, I've got something here, I need it, and they're calling you over the radio and not sending you a mission, then have the gunner or whoever's driving the tank be able to input that grid square in there.
Right. Okay. It's just give me a great idea as well, because we're just about to start a new campaign, and I'm trying to push for this new campaign. Not to be realistic, is not the right word, but to introduce a bit more real-life ground-to-air communication and doctrine. So the idea is we're going to send planes in that aren't necessarily going to do the bombing. What they're going to do is call back information, and then a guy in a Paladin or an MLRS is going to start bombarding. So it's great timing you coming on at the moment, actually.
That's exactly how it would really work.
Now, the one problem I've got is, the obvious problem I've got here is these grid squares are not labelled. The big ones are CN22. But
they are if you change your system. I've got mine set up in DCS already.
Well,
change your system from Latin Lawn to military MGRS.
Right. Where do I do that?
It's under options, if I remember right. I don't have my game up and running right now.
And will that give me grid coordinates? In fact, I think I can.
That will give you.
I think we can
Control
do it.
Y.
Yeah, I think
left Alt Y.
Okay, so I'm looking at the top left now. Let me just get it. Okay, that is an MGRS. Well, now, what does that actually? What does it mean? Where's the grid square? Iron Wolf in that.
Hang on, I'm trying to make this bigger so I can see. I'm blind.
40.
Okay, so the CN is your 10,000 meter grid square unit, and then the digits are your easting and northing. So you're on grid CN. Stop your mouse.
Sorry.
Okay, so right there, you're at grid square Charlie November 29578 63442.
So,
and if you take a grid square, so you're in the Charlie November 10,000 meter grid square. That's what that Charlie November 26 is, up there to the upper right, or upper left, just a little bit.
Roger.
So if you take your grid square and you divide it by left and up, okay, in tens, that will give you your grid square location. So if you were to take and divide that bottom line into 10 segments, and the line going vertical into 10 segments, you read to the right and up to get your grid square. So your easting is 29673. That's how far to the east you are. And then your northing is 63473. That's how far north you are. And that's where your arrow's pointing right now.
So these, I don't know the words, but are these these little squares that you'll see in a minute, these little blue squares, are these the squares that you work to? They're, yes.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. That's a 1 kilometer grid square.
So to be accurate then, when we're doing this, the guy in his F5 is going to see the baddies, he's going to radio this grid square over to me, and then I'm going to prosecute that grid square, right? That's how we want it.
Right. You're going to send that information to the FDC, who's going to send it to the MLRS or artillery unit.
Right.
Unless you're working directly with them like a forward observer, and then you're going to send that information to them direct, and then they're going to hand punch it into the computer.
Okay, that works then. So I know we haven't quite got it how we want it at the moment, but what I can at least start doing is get a grid square from the pilot or whoever's looking, and then I can essentially punch that in. And I have to. No, I can't. Can I? I have to do the aiming with the. No, yeah, I see what you mean.
Right.
And I see what you want now. So what we want is the operator to go into a little room, and it doesn't have to be pretty. It can just be a black background with a grid on it. Yeah. And just select that square there. Say fire, basically. Right.
You can do it from the F10 view in the tactical commander.
Yep, that'll work.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Select the unit.
Yeah, I get it. So let me just choose my right guy. Choose coalition, blue. I'm going to be a tactical commander. Okay, I'm going to grab my guy, right, and I want to shoot at that grid square there, yeah, that he's just sent to me. So I'm going to say add target. I know I'm that one there. Click there. Target radius.
So then you can input a grid then, or lat long.
Or in this case, if we're working in grid squares, I just want that grid square.
A radius.
Start fire.
See, it's not even letting you do the entire grid square.
No, it doesn't. It's not. It's not interesting grid squares. It's just like, you know what I mean? It'll just go wherever the mouse goes.
Right. So that's wrong to begin with.
So what they need to do is, I mean, this is fine. The way they've got this laid out is fine. What they need to do is have it so that it can snap to a grid square. That grid square there. And to me, I think the grid squares should all have their own individual little label here as well.
So that's why you have the thing off to the left, that CN26, that tells you you're in the 10,000 meter, in the Charlie November 10,000 meter grid square. That's what that, you should have a solid black line. Yeah. See those solid black lines?
Yeah.
That's your 10,000 meter grid square.
So it's 10 by 10, isn't it? So
Right.
10 by 10, I see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, pick your grid. Okay, but so what we're really asking for is the ability not to just put this anywhere, like on that house there. The realistic use of the MLRS would be able to say, just click that square, that grid square then goes red, fire, right? Choose.
Technically, you could do multiple fire missions, and you just put multiple points down within the square, and just set it to 3 shots or 4 shots.
But what Jolly's saying is that realistically, you would only fire at a grid square. You wouldn't have the ability to go anywhere in that grid square like we can do there. You would just choose a grid square.
Do. That's what I was talking about the shift aim points.
Okay.
So, but I wouldn't be firing and stopping and then doing another grid. You pre-program all that into the fire control computer at the start, so the LLM does it all for you.
Right.
So it'll fire off a 2 rocket or 1 rocket, and then shift and fire another one, and shift and fire another one.
Okay. Well, I think we can actually
you can do 3 stacked.
Yeah.
In,
I think we might be able to do that. So let me just. First things first, let me just get a new mission going so that this guy is not... okay, what I'm going to do is take him there. I'm just going to get rid of all of his waypoints. Delete. So he's got
if you do this campaign, I want to be your artillery guy.
Roger. I mean, I'm trying to figure it out as I go, but yeah, absolutely. If I could call in artillery strikes, you could be like, okay, I'm sending X over... the main problem is I don't know what I'm doing. As you've probably noticed, I'm not the foggiest of how any of this works.
You're doing fine.
Save, enter. Right, so let's go and try
You're
this.
doing a lot better than a lot of privates I've trained.
Lols. Okay, so tactical commander. Okay, I'm going to grab my MLRS. What I'm going to do, what should I do, Wolf? Just add a target first of all.
So what you do is add a target, set where you want the impact point and radius. Set it to say 4 shots, something like that.
Okay, I'm gonna go for.
And then click start fire, and then you can go add target again.
So I'm going for this grid square here. I want my main point, if you like, to be there. Okay, and I'm just gonna put 1 shot. And then, how do I add another target?
Change your number of shots, otherwise you'll run out. You only got 1 launcher.
Okay.
So you can go start fire and then go out of it back in, and you can select target again, and it'll put a 2 next to it.
Okay. So I go back into it. This is all a bit fiddly, I must admit.
Yeah.
Add target, so I'm going to put it there. And I want...
add target again.
Just on 2 shots there. Okay. How do I get out of it? Do I just click somewhere else?
Yeah.
Okay, click somewhere else. Add another target. Add target. So it's not quite the offset.
Got to click on the unit again. Yeah.
I did. Yeah. So there, and then the remaining, which is going to be 4. Okay. So I've done 4. It's disappeared now. It's going to do 4 shots there. Then rather than offsetting per se, I've done 2 new targets, 1 there and 1 there. Whereas what we want really is an offset from the target 1, right? Offset points.
We use shift aim points depending on how much of a saturation we want to get on the grid square.
So rather than having these complete separate points, these want to be related to the initial point by the sounds of what I'm understanding.
Well, they're related to the center of mass to the target area.
Right. Okay. And how do I get him to fire this? Will he just do it now?
It should do it, yeah. You hit start fire, but it takes a while to align.
Sure, so he's got to do his little thing, whatever he's going to do. Oh! There he goes, chaps. Okay. Off they go. I should have put wind on and see if it compensated. That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they don't have the elevation of the LLM right either. They're using just a set elevation every time it fires.
Yeah, I thought that looked wrong.
Yeah, if for like maximum range, that thing's going to be elevated way up there.
Okay, so the first one's hit, and there's the first 4 look, and they're just scattering over that target with a accuracy of plus or minus 300 feet, 400 feet or something. Then here comes the next fire mission, apparently. Is he going to do it, do we think? There should be a shot of 2 next. No, he's given up. Didn't do the second fire mission, so it just didn't work. He didn't go for the second fire mission or the third fire mission.
It might have been out of tolerance for the LLM. Because it doesn't look like they take into account that the launcher might have to move.
It just needs refining a bit, doesn't it, guys? It's a bit clunky and...
Yeah. See, in real life, if we were out of tolerance or whatever, or if we had a mission like this, you're gonna align yourself to make the shots to begin with. You have a readout on the fire control panel that tells you exactly where you're at.
Okay, well, so what I did, I assigned these targets a number of shots. It completed fire mission 1, but it didn't complete these, what we're going to call offsets. It just didn't do them. It just gave up. For whatever reason, I don't know. But there you go. Right, so we've explained pretty much. I still haven't got it fully understood, but we've explained roughly what we want there. What I can do is I can push that to ED, and if they want to contact you, you can't force them to, obviously, but if they want to contact you, then I can give them your details.
Yeah, by all means.
Right. Anything else you want to say at the moment regards this? Any improvements you think it needs or ideas?
Nope. Just hopefully they'll fix it, and then we can add on another layer of realism to the game.
Right. Absolutely. And especially if I try and start this campaign like I'm planning to do on Monday, then things like this will become really useful. But one step at a time. Let's see what feedback we get. Right, Jolly and everyone, thank you for turning up. In fact, is there any questions anyone's got for Jolly while we've got him? Because it's hard to get experts in. Right, Jolly, keep in touch. I'll be seeing you probably soon about this. And the rest of you, I'll catch you later.